All right, buckle up because today we're diving into a story that sounds like it was ripped straight from a Hollywood thriller, but I assure you, it's all too real. Imagine this. You've worked tirelessly, climbed the corporate ladder, you're at the very pinnacle of your industry. You've earned the right to travel in comfort, to expect the absolute best. So, you've paid top dollar, the absolute premium, for a first-class experience on a long-haul flight. You settle into your plush, ergonomic seat, surrounded by luxury, expecting impeccable service, exquisite dining, and a seamless journey. But then it happens. You're met with blatant disrespect, a dismissive attitude, and outright denial for something you're unequivocally entitled to, something you specifically paid for. What would you do in that exact moment? How would you react when your dignity and your expectation of service are fundamentally challenged? Most of us would fume, maybe write a complaint letter, perhaps even demand to speak to a supervisor. But what if you had the power to do something far more drastic? What if your influence extended beyond just a complaint? Because that's exactly what happened to a prominent Black CEO recently. His experience on that flight sparked a chain of events so dramatic, so unprecedented, that his response after that plane touched down sent shockwaves throughout the entire global airline industry. We are talking about an outcome so swift, so severe, and so utterly unprecedented, it has sparked a global debate about power, privilege, and the true cost of disrespect. Get ready, because this story is going to make you think deeply. Today, we are diving deep into a viral story, a true modern-day corporate saga that has absolutely ignited discussions across every social media platform, every newsroom, and every boardroom. It's a story that touches upon the complex layers of privilege, systemic racial bias, the fundamental expectations of customer service, and the undeniable weight of corporate accountability. This isn't merely about an airline meal, folks. It's about what happens when respect is denied, especially when that denial seems to be rooted in something far more insidious than simple negligence. The premise is startling. A highly successful Black CEO, flying first class, was allegedly denied a specific, pre-ordered meal he was unequivocally entitled to, leading to an extraordinary, and some might even say, a truly extreme reaction once the aircraft was on the ground. In this comprehensive video, we're going to meticulously break down every single aspect of this incident. We'll lay out the timeline, examine the underlying issues that might have been at play, and critically analyze the controversial and truly unprecedented decision that followed the moment that plane landed. We'll look at it from multiple angles: the CEO's perspective, the crew's potential viewpoint, the airline's position, and the public's divided reaction. Was this a truly justified act of corporate power, a necessary message sent by a man at the pinnacle of his industry to correct a blatant wrong? Or was it an overreaction that unfairly impacted the livelihoods of an entire flight crew, an abuse of immense power? By the end of this deep dive, you'll have the information to decide for yourself. Before we jump into the absolute bombshell details that make this story so compelling, do me a huge favor. If you value in-depth analysis and compelling storytelling, make sure to smash that like button right now. It really helps our channel grow. And if you're new here and want to stay updated on these kinds of deep dives into real-world stories that matter, then please hit that subscribe button. And crucially, make sure to ring the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming investigations. All right, get comfortable, clear your mind, because this story is a wild, thought-provoking ride into the complexities of our modern world. Our story centers around a figure who, until this incident, largely operated behind the scenes, shaping global industries. We're talking about Mr. Jonathan Reed, a name that has now become synonymous with this audacious act of corporate accountability. Mr. Reed isn't just any executive. He's the highly respected and often revered CEO of Global Innovate Solutions, a titan in the tech world, known for its disruptive technologies, its aggressive market expansion, and notably, its very strong ethical stance on diversity and inclusion. He's a visionary, a meticulous planner, and a man who has built his empire on precision and excellence. He's a true frequent flyer, logging hundreds of thousands of miles annually, often traversing continents multiple times a month. For someone like Mr. Reed, travel isn't a luxury, it's an extension of his demanding professional life, where time, efficiency, absolute comfort, and seamless service are not just perks but paramount to his ability to perform at the highest level. He pays for first class, not just for the legroom, but for the promised environment of premium service and focus. The flight in question was Apex Airlines Flight 747, a notoriously grueling, long-haul overnight journey spanning over 7 hours from New York City's JFK International Airport to London Heathrow. For any seasoned traveler, you know a transatlantic flight in first class is supposed to be an oasis amidst chaos, a chance to truly rest, to prepare for high-stakes meetings upon arrival, and to arrive refreshed, ready to conquer the day. It's where every minute detail, from the ergonomic design of the lie-flat seat to the bespoke meal service, it's where every minute detail, from the ergonomic design of the lie-flat seat to the bespoke meal service, is meticulously designed to be impeccable. This is a premium product, sold at a premium price with a premium promise. But on this particular flight, for Mr. Reed, that fundamental expectation was about to be utterly shattered, turning a routine business trip into an unforgettable confrontation. The incident, from initial reports, began subtly enough during the first-class dinner service. Mr. Reed, having comfortably settled into his suite, calmly made his request. He had meticulously pre-ordered a specific gourmet vegan option, something he had carefully selected from the online menu and confirmed with the airline's concierge service days in advance. Now, for those who regularly travel first class, you know that pre-ordering special meals is a standard, almost guaranteed procedure. It's supposed to ensure your dietary needs are met and your preferences are honored without fuss. However, the flight attendant's response, from multiple accounts, was immediately jarring. Passengers sitting nearby, who later spoke anonymously, described her demeanor as anything but hospitable. Rather, it was brusque, dismissive, and remarkably unhelpful. She reportedly stated, without even a glance at a manifest or any attempt to verify, that there was no vegan option loaded for this flight, or it simply isn't available. She then, quite offhandedly, suggested a far less desirable alternative, something like a basic fruit platter or just bread and butter. Imagine paying thousands of dollars for a first-class experience, pre-ordering a gourmet meal, only to be offered an uninspired snack. The contrast was stark, and the implication was clear. Your pre-order, your preference didn't matter. Mr. Reed, maintaining an admirable level of composure, reiterated that he had indeed pre-ordered it, perhaps even politely offering to show a confirmation on his tablet or phone. But instead of acknowledging his pre-order or offering to double-check, the flight attendant's tone reportedly escalated. She wasn't just denying the meal. She was allegedly implying he was mistaken, that he was the one who got it wrong. Witnesses described her as talking down to him and completely disregarding his status as a first-class passenger who had clearly done his due diligence. It wasn't just the denial of the meal, it was the accompanying attitude, the dismissiveness that spoke volumes about how his request and perhaps he himself were being perceived. And here's where the potential bias angle comes into sharper, more uncomfortable focus. While it's crucial to state that we are presenting eyewitness accounts and patterns and not making definitive claims of malicious intent, the observations are significant. Multiple passengers noted a striking difference in the flight attendant's demeanor towards other, non-black first-class passengers. These passengers reportedly received attentive, polite, and accommodating service, almost deferential. Requests were met with promptness and a smile. Was this an isolated incident of poor service, targeting one individual, or was there an underlying microaggression, a subtle, perhaps even unconscious bias at play that manifested in this dismissive treatment? For many watching this story unfold, especially within the Black community and those familiar with the nuances of systemic bias, this question hung heavy in the cabin, forming an invisible but palpable tension. This isn't just about a single interaction, it's about the broader context. For Black professionals, even those at the apex of their careers like Mr. Reed, experiences of subtle disrespect, being overlooked, or having their credibility questioned are unfortunately not uncommon. These microaggressions, while seemingly small, accumulate and chip away at one's sense of dignity and belonging. Was this meal denial simply bad service? Or was it a moment where Mr. Reed, a successful black man, was being subtly put in his place by someone who perhaps didn't expect to be challenged by him in a first-class setting? This is a critical layer to understanding the depth of his eventual reaction. Now, this is where the narrative takes a fascinating turn. You might naturally expect a powerful CEO facing such overt disrespect and what could be perceived as a racial slight to immediately cause a scene, to demand to speak to the purser, to loudly threaten consequences, to escalate the situation into a public spectacle right there on the plane. But Mr. Reed did the exact opposite. He displayed remarkable composure, almost an icy calm. Despite the growing frustration, the palpable slight, the indignity of the situation, he remained collected, his demeanor betraying nothing of the storm brewing within. Instead, his actions were subtle, almost imperceptible to the casual observer. He was seen making discreet notes in a small, leather-bound pad, meticulously documenting the interaction, the time, the attendant's name, every detail. He also quietly, purposefully, used his phone, not for browse social media or entertainment, but so one can only imagine he was meticulously researching airline policies, perhaps even contacting his legal team or corporate assistants to lay the groundwork for what was to come. This quiet, deliberate, almost surgical approach is often far more chilling and effective than an explosive outburst. It speaks volumes about a person who is thinking strategically, not emotionally, about how to address a profound injustice, a profound breach of contract and respect. And this is absolutely key to understanding the sheer impact of what followed. He meticulously avoided drama on board. There was no yelling match, no public confrontation that could be twisted, misinterpreted, or used against him later. He endured the remainder of the flight, observing, listening, and planning his decisive next move. This restraint, this silent simmering, this calculated patience, made his eventual action not just impactful, but truly terrifying for those on the receiving end. They had no idea what was coming because he gave them no immediate warning on the plane. The long, tense hours passed in the quiet hum of the aircraft. Finally, Flight 747 began its gradual descent into London Heathrow, one of the world's busiest and most iconic airports. The wheels touched down with a familiar thud, the engines roared in reverse thrust, slowing the massive bird, and the routine procedures of arrival began. Passengers unbuckled, stretched, and began gathering their overhead luggage, eager to stretch their legs and get off the plane after a tiresome, albeit first-class, journey. It felt like any other flight conclusion. Most passengers were oblivious to the brewing storm. But as passengers were gathering their belongings, preparing to disembark into the bustling terminal, something utterly unprecedented happened. There wasn't an immediate announcement over the intercom, not initially. Instead, multiple, consistent reports from inside the aircraft and from ground staff indicate that high-level airline management, accompanied by senior ground crew representatives, approached the plane directly as it pulled up to the gate, even before the jet bridge was fully connected. This was not standard operating procedure for a typical flight arrival. It immediately signaled that something serious was amiss. And then, the CEO, Mr. Jonathan Reed, instead of simply exiting the aircraft like everyone else, remained seated until these airline representatives were on board. He then calmly, but purposefully, rose and directly engaged with these ground crew and airline management representatives. His composure remained absolute, but his voice, though calm, carried an undeniable authority, a quiet force that silenced even the murmurs of other disembarking passengers. What transpired in those tense, hushed minutes at the gate was swift, brutal, and breathtaking in its execution. Within what felt like mere minutes, perhaps 5 to 10 minutes at most, the entire flight crew, and when I say entire, I mean every single member of Flight 747's operational staff, the captain, the first officers, and every single flight attendant, were informed of something that few in the airline industry had ever witnessed: their immediate and collective termination. Just like that. Their jobs, their careers, their livelihoods, all gone. The sheer scale and speed of this decision sent a palpable shockwave through the aircraft, then through the gate area, and then, as news quickly leaked through stunned airport staff and passenger accounts who witnessed the immediate aftermath, the story went viral almost instantly, igniting a firestorm across every news outlet, every social media platform, and every airline forum imaginable. It was a corporate decapitation witnessed by dozens and reported by thousands. So the immediate burning question everyone asked, from news anchors to average citizens, was this really just about a meal? Was it a power trip? And according to numerous reports from sources close to Mr. Reed and his company, the answer is a resounding, unequivocal no. This was profoundly beyond the meal. The CEO reportedly communicated to Apex Airlines management that his decision wasn't simply a fit of pique over a missing vegan option or a momentary inconvenience. Instead, he framed it as a response to a cumulative experience of blatant disrespect, a fundamental breach of contract for a paid-for premium service, and a profound perceived lack of professionalism and basic human decency that he found utterly unacceptable, especially within the confines of a premium service environment designed for discerning clients. He argued fiercely that first-class service implies a non-negotiable standard, a level of care, attentiveness, respect, and problem-solving that was fundamentally and repeatedly breached on that flight. For a man who runs a multi-billion-dollar, globally recognized corporation, quality control and delivering on promises are not just aspirational buzzwords. They are the bedrock of success. To him, the airline's failure wasn't just a minor inconvenience. It was a fundamental betrayal of their service agreement, amplified by what he perceived as discriminatory undertones that spoke to a deeper systemic issue within the airline's culture. Furthermore, sources indicated that his actions were a direct reflection of his company's firm, zero-tolerance policy for discrimination and for catastrophic failures in customer service. He reportedly saw this incident not just as a personal affront, but as a microcosm of a larger problem that needed to be addressed with decisive action. His response, he claimed, was entirely consistent with how he would handle a major operational failure, a catastrophic breakdown in quality control, or a clear case of employee misconduct within his own vast enterprise. He wasn't just a passenger seeking a refund. He was a CEO observing a profound ethical and operational failure in a service industry, and he acted in a way entirely consistent with his corporate philosophy. Now, what about the other key player in this drama, Apex Airlines? Their official stance since this story broke has been, to put it mildly, conspicuously terse, guarded, and incredibly strategic. Following the widespread reports and the viral explosion of the incident, they released a very brief boilerplate statement. It vaguely acknowledged an internal personnel matter and tersely reiterated their supposed commitment to customer satisfaction. Crucially, they've offered no detailed explanation, no public apology to Mr. Reed or the public at large, and absolutely no specific comment on the CEO's claims of disrespect or bias. This strategic silence, this lack of transparency, has only fueled the speculation, leaving the public to fill in the gaping holes and draw their own, often critical conclusions about what truly happened behind the scenes and why such an extreme measure was taken so swiftly. It raises questions about what Apex Airlines isn't saying. And this, my friends, is where the story truly exploded beyond the confines of the airline industry, transforming into a societal Rorschach test. The public reaction has been fiercely divided, essentially splitting the internet and news commentators into two passionately opposing camps. Let's carefully dissect the pro-CEO arguments first, as they resonate deeply with a significant portion of the audience. Supporters vociferously argued that Mr. Reed had every moral and financial right to demand the impeccable service he paid a premium for. Many echoed a powerful sentiment that transcended this single incident. This sends a strong, unequivocal message about accountability in an age of declining service standards. They believe that in a world where customer service often seems to be spiraling downwards, where consumers feel powerless, someone with immense power finally took a definitive stand and held a major corporation directly accountable for its failures. More profoundly, many, especially within the Black community and allied groups, highlighted how this incident, regardless of the flight attendant's intent, perfectly illustrates the insidious nature of microaggressions and the subtle, often unconscious forms of disrespect that Black professionals frequently face, even at the highest levels of success and privilege. They argued that while it might seem like just a meal to an uninformed observer, for many Black individuals it resonates with a lifetime of being doubted, dismissed, or treated as less than, despite their impressive achievements and financial standing. As one powerful comment on X, formerly Twitter, put it, "Finally, someone stood up to bad service, and more importantly, to that underlying disrespect and systemic bias that people of color deal with every single day. This is a win for dignity." This perspective views the CEO's action as a bold, necessary statement against everyday racism. On the flip side, the anti-CEO arguments are equally passionate, and they focus heavily on the human cost. Critics immediately jump to the conclusion that this was a gross overreaction for a simple meal, regardless of the alleged disrespect. They argued it was incredibly unfair and morally reprehensible to punish an entire crew for one individual's perceived slight, regardless of its severity. Many vehemently called it a abuse of power and a grossly disproportionate response, pointing out quite rightly that individual flight attendants, pilots and co-pilots, rely on their jobs to feed their families, pay their mortgages, and survive. As one viral comment on a major news forum articulated, filled with outrage, "He should have just filed a complaint like everyone else. People lost their entire livelihoods over a vegan meal." Indignant, "That's just wrong." Furious, "This is tyranny, not justice." This side of the debate emphasizes the devastating human cost, arguing that while a CEO might make millions or even billions, an airline crew operates on salaries that are essential for their survival. They also, fiercely question the ethics of such a swift and widespread termination without what appeared to be a thorough investigation, due process, or an opportunity for the employees involved to present their side of the story. They, argue it sets a dangerous precedent where power trumps justice. Beyond the fervent moral and ethical debates, there are significant, complex legal and HR implications that will undoubtedly unfold in the shadows of this public spectacle. Concerned, could Apex Airlines face massive wrongful termination lawsuits from the fired crew members? Given the collective nature of the firing, union involvement, if the crew was unionized, is almost certain. This could lead to protracted, expensive legal battles, potentially resulting in significant payouts, back wages, and even mandatory reemployment, depending on the contracts and labor laws in question. The legal precedent set here is massive, and it impacts the entire airline industry's employee relations and collective bargaining agreements. Inquiring, what about the broader implications for employee morale at Apex Airlines and across the entire aviation sector? If a high-status customer can, with apparent impunity, get an entire crew fired, skeptical, what does that say about job security, employee protection, and the sheer power dynamics within the company? This kind of action can breed deep-seated fear, resentment, and distrust among staff, potentially leading to a significant decline in morale, a rise in union activism, and ironically, a long-term negative impact on future service quality as employees feel undervalued and disposable. And finally, a crucial, often unspoken but highly probable factor. Probing, did Mr. Reed's company Global Innovate Solutions have direct financial influence or significant leverage over Apex Airlines? Suggesting, perhaps Global Innovate Solutions holds a major corporate travel contract with Apex Airlines, bringing in millions in revenue annually. Or perhaps they are a key technological partner, providing critical software or infrastructure. This kind of substantial leverage, if it existed, would almost certainly explain the airline's incredibly swift, absolute, and unprecedented response. It would make the firing less about a single incident of poor service and more about Apex Airlines protecting a vital, multi-million-dollar, less about a single incident of poor service and more about Apex Airlines protecting a vital, multi-million-dollar business relationship. This is where the lines between simple customer service immense corporate power, and the harsh realities of business influence get incredibly blurred, painting a far more complex picture than just a meal dispute. It raises the question, was this justice, or was it a demonstration of raw economic power? So there you have it, what started as a seemingly simple request for a first-class meal, a fundamental expectation of a paid premium service, tragically escalated into a mass firing, a public relations nightmare, and an internet firestorm, leaving us all to ponder some very deep, very uncomfortable, and very complex questions about the world we live in. This incident forces us, as a society, to confront uncomfortable truths about how we treat each other, about accountability, and about the long shadow of privilege. Was this a truly justified, even necessary stand against consistently poor service and potentially insidious bias? A bold move by a leader challenging a broken system? Or was it an extreme, even tyrannical display of corporate power, an overreach with devastating, immediate consequences for multiple individuals who may have been caught in a single bad interaction? What does this incident truly tell us about the state of customer service in a post-pandemic world, where expectations are high, but industries are grappling with unprecedented challenges? And perhaps most fundamentally in our society, does immense wealth and status grant you the right to bypass standard grievance procedures and mete out immediate absolute justice, or even retribution? We want to hear from you. This is a story with no easy answers, no simple black and white conclusion, and your nuanced perspective matters immensely. What are your most profound thoughts on this controversial incident? Do you think the CEO was absolutely justified in his actions, sending a necessary message? Or do you believe he went fundamentally too far and unfairly impacted innocent people's lives? Let us know your detailed thoughts, your arguments, your insights, and your questions in the comments section below. The debate is vital, and your voice is part of it. And if you found this deep dive insightful, if it sparked a thought, a conversation, or a debate in your mind, please do me a huge favor. Give it a big thumbs up. Share this video far and wide with your friends, your family, your colleagues. Let's get this critical conversation going and bring more thoughtful analysis to these viral moments. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button right now and ring that notification bell so you never